A teenage girl in Artesia, New Mexico, was about to be taken into custody for murder. On May 10, 2023, officers showed up at her home with paperwork already signed by a judge. The warrants allowed them to search the house and arrest 19-year-old Alexee Trevizo on charges that included first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. The knock on the door was answered by her mother. She had no idea what was coming. When officers said they needed to speak with Alexee, she immediately began asking questions. What happened? What did her daughter do? Why were they there with warrants? Police kept their answers brief. Because Alexee was an adult, they said the details would be discussed with her directly, but the questions did not stop. After more back and forth, officers stated, the case involved a newborn baby and a hospital incident. The word homicide was mentioned. The mother reacted with disbelief and told officers her daughter was not dangerous. She asked them to be careful.
What is she under arrest for? No, I'm not bringing her out here yet. Let me know what she's under arrest for. For what? For what? Tell me.
Homicide. Open count of homicide. And tampering with evidence.
Tampering with evidence?
Yes.
At the hospital?
Moments later, Alexee stepped outside. There was no struggle, no raised voices. Officers placed her in handcuffs and guided her to a patrol vehicle while her mother stood nearby, still trying to understand what was happening. Alexee was then transported to the public safety complex to be booked. The arrest did not start the story. It was the result of something that had happened months earlier inside a hospital emergency room. At approximately 2:45 a.m. on January 27, 2023, Detective Barnabas Gonzalez was contacted about a death investigation at Artesia General Hospital. Emergency room staff had discovered a deceased newborn baby inside a restroom trash can. Hours earlier, Alexee Trevizo had walked into the emergency room complaining of severe lower back pain. She denied being pregnant. She told nurses she had regular menstrual cycles. She said she was currently on her period. She also stated she was not sexually active. Medical staff began standard testing. Lab results revealed she was pregnant. Not early pregnancy, not a possible miscarriage. She was full term, approximately 38 weeks. Staff realized they were dealing with active labor. At 1:39 a.m., hospital security footage shows Alexee entering the public restroom in the emergency department hallway. She appeared to be in a hurry, holding her left hand near her lower body as she went inside. At 1:40 a.m., a staff member checked on her. At 1:49 a.m., she was checked on again. Between 1:53 and 1:56 a.m., emergency room staff continued checking. She did not respond. Staff became concerned and retrieved keys from security. They informed her they were unlocking the door. At 1:57 a.m., she exited the restroom and returned to her hospital room. What staff saw inside that bathroom immediately raised alarms. The restroom was covered in blood. Nurses initially believed she may have been suffering a miscarriage, an ectopic pregnancy, or possibly harming herself. They began immediate treatment, focused on stabilizing her. They checked the toilet. It was empty. They looked inside the trash can. Nothing appeared unusual on top. Meanwhile, a housekeeper named Lila was called to clean the large amount of blood left behind. At approximately 2:08 a.m., Lila began cleaning the restroom. After wiping up the blood, she went to remove the trash bag. She noticed it was heavier than normal. When she looked closer, she saw another plastic trash bag tied shut underneath the top layer of waste. The tied portion was folded under itself, hidden. She lifted it and looked through the plastic. Inside, she saw what appeared to be a baby. She immediately called nurses Lori Aragon and Hilliard Halliday. They opened the bag. Inside was a newborn male. He was cold, blue, no signs of life. His temperature was recorded at 95 degrees. The nurses carefully moved him to Trauma Room 2 without disturbing surrounding items. In the trash can were paper towels, restroom waste bags, and a tampon. Dr. Heather Vasquez examined the infant and pronounced him dead at 2:28 a.m. At 2:26 a.m., security footage confirms the moment the newborn was discovered, and staff alerted. Police were called immediately. Dr. Vasquez informed Alexee that a baby had been found in the restroom. Body camera footage later reviewed by investigators captured the exchange. Alexee stated the newborn came out of me and said she did not know what to do. She said the baby was not crying or breathing when she gave birth. She admitted placing the baby in a bag. At one point, she referred to the newborn as nothing. When her mother, Rosa, asked what she had done, Alexee responded that she put it in a bag. Shortly after, Alexee was prepared for emergency transport to Lovelace Medical Center in Roswell. She was flown out before Detective Gonzalez could speak with her directly. She was not arrested that night. The investigation continued.
A baby, and it looked like you tried to hide it. We do have to have the police involved.
And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing.
I know. But the baby's gonna have to be taken for autopsy, and there'll be an investigator and everything. I'm really sorry.
Where did you put the baby at? Tell me the truth. In there.
517-836-460.
That came out of the toilet.
You put it in the bag?
Yes.
In what bag? Why did you say anything to us? Do you want to get in trouble for this now?
How big is the baby?
It's full term.
What?
9 months? Nothing was crying.
Lexee, have you watched the news of the girls that what they do to their babies and what they go to jail?
Nothing was crying.
She's not gonna go to jail.
Right now, right now she's being detained, so she's not going to leave from here at all. Period. Okay. So one of us will
Is
be
it in your custody? Like,
Yeah, she's detained. Yeah, she's not under arrest, but she is detained. Okay, she's not free to leave.
Detective Gonzalez carefully reviewed the emergency room hallway surveillance footage. From the early hours of January 27th, and the timeline it revealed was precise and difficult to dispute. At 1:39 a.m., Alexee entered the restroom. Staff conducted a check just 1 minute later at 1:40 a.m., followed by another at 1:49 a.m. Between 1:53 and 1:56 a.m., additional checks were made by ER personnel. At 1:57 a.m., she exited the restroom. At 2:08 a.m., a housekeeper began cleaning the area, and at 2:26 a.m., a newborn was discovered. 2 minutes later, at 2:28 a.m., the baby was pronounced dead. Based on the evidence collected and the sequence of events captured on surveillance, investigators later stated that they believed Alexee delivered the baby while alone inside the restroom. Authorities alleged that the newborn was placed into a plastic trash bag. The bag was tied and folded under itself, and then concealed beneath other trash inside the bin. As the investigation unfolded, one question rose above all others and became central to the case. Was the baby born alive? On March 28, 2023, the Office of the Medical Investigator released its findings. The autopsy described the infant as a full-term newborn male with no anatomical abnormalities and no obvious physical injuries. His lungs were aerated. There was air in the stomach. There was no decomposition. Medical examiners noted that the natural heart connections present in newborns were still open, which is typical immediately after birth. The adrenal glands showed microscopic hemorrhaging consistent with hypoxia, meaning lack of oxygen. The report stated clearly, the air in the lungs and stomach, along with no decomposition, was consistent with the baby having been born alive. Based on length, weight, and organ size, he was approximately 38 weeks gestation, full term, compatible with life outside the uterus. The cause of death was listed as entrapment. The manner of death was homicide. The report explained that entrapment occurs when an individual is placed inside an airtight or relatively airtight container, such as a tied plastic trash bag, and consumes available oxygen until it is no longer sufficient to sustain life. Investigators concluded the newborn had taken breaths after birth and died due to lack of oxygen inside the bag. At that point, the case shifted fully from medical emergency to criminal investigation. Detective Gonzalez documented that hospital staff consistently stated Alexee denied pregnancy upon arrival. She had insisted she was menstruating. She had told staff she did not have sex. When told about the newborn, she acknowledged the baby came out of her and said she did not know what to do. Her mother appeared confused and distressed in body camera footage. She questioned how no one had known about the pregnancy. She asked what happened inside the restroom. She pressed her daughter for answers. Investigators collected the trash bag, restroom contents, and medical records as evidence. The Criminal Investigations Division formally launched a death investigation that morning. Alexee was released after medical treatment. Detectives waited for the autopsy results before seeking charges. When the medical findings confirmed live birth and homicide, Detective Gonzalez requested an arrest warrant based on the facts documented in the affidavit. Months later, officers returned to her home in Artesia. They knocked, and they placed Alexee Trevizo in handcuffs. After her arrest in May 2023, prosecutors formally charged Alexee Trevizo with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. The first-degree murder charge carried the possibility of life in prison if she were convicted. The state argued that the newborn had been born alive and that placing him inside a tied plastic trash bag caused his death. They also argued that hiding the bag beneath other trash showed an attempt to conceal what had happened. From the beginning, the prosecution's case relied heavily on two pieces of evidence. First, the statements Alexee made inside the hospital room. Second, the surveillance footage from inside Artesia General Hospital showing her entering and exiting the bathroom. Body camera footage from responding officers captured a key exchange. While police stood inside her hospital room, Dr. Heather Vasquez informed Alexee that a deceased newborn had been found in the restroom. According to prosecutors, Alexee responded, "I'm sorry, it came out of me. I didn't know what to do." She also admitted placing the baby in a bag. These statements became central to the state's argument. The hallway surveillance video was also critical. It showed her entering the restroom at 1:39 a.m. and exiting at 1:57 a.m. It documented staff checking on her multiple times. It confirmed the timeline that investigators later used to argue she delivered the baby alone inside that restroom. However, before the case could move toward trial, a major legal challenge emerged. On July 24, 2023, a judge in New Mexico's 5th Judicial District Court granted the defense's motion to suppress key evidence. The ruling excluded all statements Alexee allegedly made inside the hospital room in the presence of police and medical staff. It also excluded video footage taken inside the hospital. The judge determined that Alexee had not been given a Miranda warning at the time she made the statements. The court further concluded that her doctor acted as an agent of law enforcement during questioning, which violated physician-patient privilege. Because of that, the court ruled the statements inadmissible at trial. The suppression order dramatically changed the strength of the prosecution's case. Without the alleged confession, and without video footage placing her in and out of the restroom during the timeline, prosecutors faced significant evidentiary challenges. The district attorney's office appealed the decision. On July 5, 2024, District Attorney Diana Luce formally asked the New Mexico Supreme Court to reverse the lower court's suppression ruling. Prosecutors argued that the statements were not protected under HIPAA, or physician-patient privilege. They contended that Alexee was not under arrest or formal restraint when she made the statements. They argued the exchange between her and Dr. Vasquez did not rise to the level of police interrogation. The state also argued that Alexee waived any privilege by making statements in the presence of her mother and law enforcement officers. Regarding the hallway surveillance footage, prosecutors maintained that the footage was taken in a public hospital corridor, not a private treatment area, and therefore did not fall under medical privacy protections. While the appeal moved forward, the criminal trial was placed on hold. Originally, a trial date had been scheduled for August 26, 2024. A pretrial hearing had also been set. After the suppression ruling and subsequent appeal, both dates were removed from the docket. The case was vacated pending the Supreme Court's review. The legal battle expanded beyond the immediate parties. In early December, the New Mexico Supreme Court officially accepted several amicus briefs from outside organizations. These were documents filed by third parties who were not directly involved in the case, but believed the outcome would have broader legal consequences. Among those submitting briefs were Professor G. Sion Song, the American Civil Liberties Union of New Mexico, the National Police Accountability Project, and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. These organizations argued that the case raised significant concerns about patient privacy and the role of law enforcement inside emergency rooms. They warned that allowing police presence during sensitive medical conversations could discourage patients from seeking care, especially in reproductive health situations. In oral arguments before the Supreme Court, Alexee's attorney emphasized the broader implications. Her legal team argued that maintaining a clear boundary between medical care and criminal investigation was essential. They contended that if doctors effectively act as agents of police while treating patients, it could undermine trust in healthcare settings. The state countered by arguing that the case did not create problematic concerns about law enforcement in emergency rooms. Prosecutors maintained that officers responded to a reported death and that the doctor's conversation with Alexee was part of medical care, not a police interrogation. The Supreme Court heard arguments but had not issued a ruling. Meanwhile, a separate civil lawsuit moved forward. A wrongful death suit was filed on behalf of the deceased newborn's estate. That case alleged liability related to hospital actions and treatment decisions. The civil matter remained on track toward trial in the following year, independent of the criminal proceedings. Public reaction to the case remained intense. The case gained national and international attention. Hospital and police video circulated widely online before being suppressed by the court. Public debate focused on reproductive rights, physician-patient privilege, and whether law enforcement overstepped its role in a medical environment. Despite the public scrutiny, the criminal case itself remained unresolved. As of early 2026, Alexee Trevizo had not been sentenced. No jury trial had occurred. The legal process remained tied to the Supreme Court's decision on whether the suppressed statements and video would be admissible. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of prosecutors, the suppressed evidence could be reinstated, and a new trial date would likely be scheduled. If the suppression order stands, prosecutors may face significant difficulty proceeding on first-degree murder charges without the alleged confession and hospital video. Throughout this period, Alexee maintained a plea of not guilty. The charges against her remain first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. The prosecution continues to argue that the newborn's death was caused by suffocation after being placed in a tied plastic trash bag. The defense continues to challenge the interpretation of medical findings and the legality of how evidence was obtained. The final outcome now depends on a ruling that will determine what evidence a jury is allowed to hear. Until that decision is issued, the case remains suspended between arrest and trial, with its most critical evidence still under legal review. This case is no longer just about what happened inside a hospital bathroom. It's about what the courts decide next and how that ruling could change everything. The final outcome now rests in the hands of the New Mexico Supreme Court. What do you think will happen next? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for the next update.